Before we hop into the episode, I wanted to say a quick shout out to Kia Williams. You didn't get a shout out or a mention in the show, but we remember you and we love you. We really love this episode and hope you enjoy it. It's a little bit of a longer one, but the show came back, so we got to do a little bit of a longer one. Welcome to Film Study, an All-American podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi, and All-American is back, and All-American Homecoming premiered, but right now we're talking about the flagship show, and we are here to review episode 408, Walk This Way. It was a jam-packed episode. My guest today, don't say nothing yet, but my guest today has been requested. He was on a little break for a minute. We won't get into why, but he was on a little break for a minute, and now he is back. And my guest today is Jason. Welcome back to the pod. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself? I'm glad to be back. It's been too long.
I'm doing good as well. So off the bat, let's get into it. What did you think about the episode?
I thought it was a really good episode. It was definitely packed. And as we get into it, we'll talk about it a little bit about everything. But I guess I really like. Well, I did and I didn't like. Like the beginning and end for Spencer, I would say. But we'll get into that a little bit.
Wait. You didn't like the beginning and end for Spencer?
Like the way they set it up, I didn't.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good episode considering that their ending, right? It was that whole thing at the end, which we'll get into, but it was that whole thing at the end about like them starting a new beginning. So I thought it was good, but it was very particular in the sense that they were wrapping up storylines, but they didn't fully wrap up storylines that I thought that they were gonna wrap up, and it didn't feel all the way like an end. Like the only thing it felt like they completed was high school. It didn't feel like they completed that stage of their life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So right off the bat, we'll talk about Asher first. His whole storyline, his whole thing was that, he was talking with Jamie, the new girl that we met during prom, and he was like looking through Coastal California's pamphlet for their athletic training program, I'm assuming. I wasn't sure if it was like actually their football program or athletic training or something else. Like I don't think that they have a coaching program. Like it would have to be something related to athletic training. So anyway, he was looking through that, and Jamie sort of encourages him to go for it. And it's like, at this point, how many episodes do we have to spend on Asher just admitting that he's going to coach? Like, it's still to this day. He's like, oh, I don't know. And it's just like, just say he's a coach. This has been the longest Band-Aid rip off ever, and we just want it to be done. But yeah, he was saying he wanted to be a coach, but he, couldn't take out $200,000 in loans, which is definitely a lot of money. And so Jamie asked his stepdad, basically for the money. When his stepdad walks over, and Asher gets upset, says he's not a charity case, and that he's already dated the girl that has taken care of his problems, which was interesting. And so he was very upset about it, but then after seeing the struggles that Spencer went through, right, he humbled himself a little bit, accepted the money, says he doesn't want to make life harder than it is, and then basically says, I'll work for you to his stepdad, and like is saying, I'm only going to accept it for the first year, work to pay it off, and like that's how I want you to help me. And then at the end, like he calls Jamie and tries to apologize, and I was just like, we've seen this story so many times. Repeat, like how many times am I going to watch Asher apologize? So it was just a very, very Asher storyline. What did you think about it?
When I initially saw it, I'm like, I was thinking like, yeah, he don't like any girl helping him out, you know, like as he said, already.
Now, now he was surely asking Olivia to help
Well,
him.
true, true, that's true. You're right.
He's definitely had to grow to this point.
But yeah, it was just like, I think he thought of it more as an insult to him than helping him, and
Right.
like he said, he felt humiliated in front of his stepdad, and I don't think he liked to
Right.
feel humiliated, and it was just like, like you said, like how many times is he gonna have to apologize to a girl on this show? It's been one too many times, and it get
Right.
tiring, like I'm tired of this seeing this, like it's just like, what's
Yeah,
the
I
point?
just want something new. Right. Like we can't see Asher and even his coaching story, right? Like why is it taking this long to just say he's going to be a coach? Like even today Jamie was like, "Oh, I'm not," or in the episode Jamie was like, "Oh, I'm not talking about you playing." Like why are we even still talking about him playing? Like I don't understand. We saw this coaching thing coming a long time ago.
Yeah, and I think what they doing is they trying to keep a back door to him playing. I guess I can see that happening at some point in time.
That's true.
So they
That's
gonna
true.
try to do whatever they can to not focus on him playing or being a coach, and they're just going to keep trying to flip flop. And he should just be a coach. He did an excellent coach at Beverly. Just being like an assistant uh to coach Montez and stuff like that.
Right. Well, and it's not like he doesn't have connections because Montez's husband works at Coastal California. If they're still following that same storyline, and he was just like, "Oh, they only take on a few assistants." Like I'm sure Montez could put in a good word for him
Yeah.
to have the coaching job. And he shouldn't have any problem with that because a couple months ago he was telling Montez, "Oh, why didn't you tell your husband that I wanted to go to Coastal Cal?" Like, I can't. Anyway,
Yeah, like he felt like the need to have, to be given something, and now he just like he don't want to take anything, from like his stepdad, and he evolved, but he's still still the same old Asher, uh getting mad at the girls, upset Olivia for trying to help him and stuff like that.
right, right. Um, so that was Asher. Moving forward, someone who has absolutely nothing to do with this Asher storyline, GW. As we suspected, as I predicted, right? Like GW is not dead, but he is struggling. So much so that he has a health aide that comes to help him that Billy and Laura have hired. Uh, Honestly, I'm gonna keep it a buck. This storyline was a little bit too real for me because I live with an elderly family member, and it is a journey. So obviously GW was like mad at this health aide, like right, like she's changing my TV channel, she's going in my drawers drawer, like all of that stuff. And Jordan sort of sees this, uh, and he tries to help GW, goes back home, right, frustrated and annoyed. Quick thing on this, Tay was not being Billy when he was dancing. Tay was being Tay. Like I'm sure they were like, we need a little intro for this, and a little transition into Jordan storming into the house. So can you just do something? And he was like, oh, let me dance, let me dance. So that was a cute moment. But anyway, Jordan storms in and yells at Billy like he so often does, and says like, "Oh, whatever. Like you're ridiculous. You need to go down there yourself." Blah 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 blah. So Billy ends up going down there himself. Predictably, he and GW get into a fight. Because GW is really struggling. He's struggling to do the glass of water. But here's what I don't like about Billy, and people really need to check them on this. And thank goodness, like Laura was checking him throughout that lunch or whatever it was they were having. But why is he yelling in this man's face? What did you think about that?
I thought it was interesting, especially for him coming off a heart attack. Like it's like they got a love hate relationship, like right now, even though they trying to get it on the amends and grow together and be a father son. I think Billy is an alpha, GW is an alpha, so like they just go on yell at each other because GW like I don't need no help, and Billy like you do need help, so like let me give you this help.
Yeah. No, but you're right. Is like they are very alpha. But the thing is, it's like with Bill, like even getting frustrated at a parent, at an elderly family member. To your point, like he just had a heart attack, and probably was this a month ago? I think they said a month had passed. So I just don't understand why Billy continuously yells in this, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're leaving the door open for some like anger management for Billy because he just does too much. He does too much too quickly for no reason because it was very much reminiscent of when he yelled at Olivia after Spencer told the family that she relapsed. But yeah, I just think Billy needs to get his yelling in order.
Yeah, I think I think Billy, like it's like in Billy mind, it's like his way or the highway, and if you like do something, that he feels you shouldn't be doing, then he's gonna start yelling at you.
Right, right. Um, and so that. GW kicks him out. Laura continues to help him, and I just really appreciate Monet. I love when she gets more to work with and actually has scenes where she's like, having more than like one or two lines of dialogue because I think she does really well, and she had that really nice moment with GW where she's just like, you know, whether or not you kicked me out because you were trying to get back at Billy or that you've just grown to like me, right? Like, I love you, and it doesn't matter if you like throw things or yell or do whatever you're gonna do. I still love you, and I'm still gonna be here for you, and that really, I think, calmed GW down because he really did, right, want someone there. It's just when you're that age, right, and you're so used to being independent. Think about how independent GW was. Like, he was getting them checks from Billy for sure, we know from season one, but he was living alone for a really long time, like taking trips by himself for a really long time. And what Billy's mom died when he was in high school, so that's a really super long time if you think about the fact that Billy went to college, graduated college, went to the NFL, had a whole entire family and a whole entire career. And yeah, in the NFL, and then a coaching career, and still like they weren't connected. So think about that amount of time that GW was alone, and now he has to learn to be like with other people again. Um,
Yeah,
and so that's not an easy thing to transition to. And I understand that. So I appreciated the way that they executed the stories because I think it's so realistic to what people go through when they have situations where either an elderly parent or an elderly family member just sort of starts to take a turn for, unfortunately, uh, the worst and just has some health challenges. So I appreciated that, and at the end of that, Spencer gives Billy advice about talking to GW or whatever. So he comes to talk to GW, and he and Laura, say like, we're gonna be there for you. Billy's just like, it's really hard for me to see you like this, and to be a bit understanding of Billy, right? Like he already lost one parent who had extreme health struggles, right? And so to see his dad, the only one that he has left, the only parent that he has left, plus knowing their complicated history, it was difficult, and I appreciated that he said, it's hard for me to see you like this, but it's also difficult, I'm sure, for you being in pain. So I really appreciated how they executed that story and wrapped that story up.
Yeah. I thought, yeah, Mama Laura, she was the savior for that, for helping GW, because she's like, she didn't really like argue with him or anything. She knew that he was independent, basically almost all his life. Well, not all his life, but like his adult life. Um, and as the word Billy, I, I would say probably in his mind he always saw his dad as independent, but in that moment he saw him as weak or something like that, like a weak old man that needed help, and he was just trying to, in Billy own way, just trying to help, but it was hard for him, and I think it, like you said, it's a real life situation, so they did do an excellent job of the execution, um,
Right.
and we also can tell that Spencer is Billy's best friend. Because they just sat there and
Dead.
had that talk, and Spencer giving him advice, and tell him, like, if in Dr. Spears' words, that would mean you traumatized and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I thought that was funny that Spencer said that. Not funny, but it was just like, I just love when they randomly uh put in like different different mental health like code
hmm
words. Traumatized. Oh, it was your stuck point. Like, just it's hilarious to me. Um but yeah, right, right. And so it'll be interesting to see where that story goes moving forward. And I'm sure we will talk about that once we get to predictions. Um, but moving right along, as much as I'm annoyed, and not even annoyed, but as much as it's like I'm ready for a new Asher storyline, I just don't want to keep seeing this one, this next one that we're gonna talk about. Like, I would rather, like, give me GW and the Laura and Billy dynamics. Give me Asher and Jamie, right? But please stop giving me this Preach Amina Coop situation.
they feel like they
I'm
need it.
tired of it.
They feel like they need it.
I'm tired of it.
They love it.
You feel like they need it? They
Well, I don't
love
feel like
they,
they
they
need it. I
love
think
it.
that's like in
Do
their
you,
mind. They like it, so they're going to like keep doing whatever they can to keep prolonging the storyline.
but does the audience want it? Does the audience want it though?
The
Is
Coop
the
Troop probably
question.
wanted.
That's true, Jen, the one member of the Coop Troop fan. No, I'm kidding. Coop has multiple fans, multiple fans. But yes, so Preach and Amina. Um, Amina was coming up with a black eye, got into a fight at school. We're assuming, we don't even know what happened. Preach is picking her up, and he's basically just trying to get information out of her, and she's like, "Stay out of my business." That's pretty rude. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie.
Like that was like me. You really got the butt whooping talking to our parents like that.
Right, right. Um, yeah, she was like, if you're not going to tell me your business, you need to stay out of mine. And that really shook Preach, which is shocking because I don't feel like it should have. I feel like, I mean, and maybe it's because being a dad is so new to him. But it's like, Preach, you're like street smart, like gang member, like, come on, what you mean you go into these high schoolers? Yes, high schoolers, they just are graduating, right? But they're still young people talking to patients and Coop being like, I don't know what to do about Amino. Sir, what? You not finna talk to nobody your own age?
I mean,
No,
but
I know that's the way the story's set
but
up.
like the way it's been going, I don't think at least to my knowledge of me watching, I don't think it's been an adult member that he has talked to or anything like that, to actually, for him to go to. So I guess that's why he got to go to Coop.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think that's absolutely the way that they set the storyline up. I just think it's interesting, and when we talk about predictions, I just, yeah, it's another case of like the Billy and Spencer relationship, but I feel like that makes a little bit more sense than Preach and Coops does right now. But anyway, I'll talk about that when we get to predictions, but he tells Coop and Patience about his struggles with Amina, and Coop starts waxing poetic about, you can't ever get to sleep when the fireworks go off, but eventually, and I'm like, what are you even talking about? What was she talking about? Like, I understand, but it's just, it was a lot. So anyway, she's again trying to give him advice about, oh, it'll blow over. Patience and Preach are actually like, maybe we should just be straight up with her. Like, Patience is like, be straight up with her. She has questions. She's not going to stop asking these questions. Preach is like, you know what? I grew up on the street and like, this is what it is. I just got to tell her what it is. And Coop was the one that was just like, nah, like, it'll blow over. We just have to, like, she won't always have these questions. You can't tell her that you shot her mom, blah, 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 blah. And of course, Preach is trying to protect Coop because she didn't actually shoot, obviously, Mo. And but everybody knows that Coop officially, because that's what she told the cops, shot Mo, because of self-defense. So they leave that meeting and it's not really settled, but Coop was like, it'll blow over. Coop then talks to Spencer, and here's my other problem, right? Like, Coop talks to Spencer on the swing set and is like, yeah, Preach said that Amita will just get over it. What? What? Coop, you were saying that Amita will get over it. What are you talking about? Preach said that. I'm really confused. She's over here telling Spencer, oh yeah, I don't know, I'm worried. And it's just like, you wouldn't be worried if you had just gone along with what Patience and Preach were trying to tell you and just tell her the truth. And now you're trying to act like they, especially Preach, are the ones that's just like, oh, it'll just blow over, when you were talking about fireworks 2 seconds ago. What are you talking about?
She was secretly hoping Spencer would give her, some knowledge to help her out a little bit. That's what she wanted.
Clearly. And so anyway, she leaves that conversation. They switch, and we'll talk about what they talked about in regards to like Spencer and his future in a second. But they talk about that, and it sort of ends on this sort of unknown note. But then what happens is Coop ends up talking to Amina, saying that she shot Mo. And Amina's just like, oh, but I thought my dad said you had nothing to do with it. And Coop is just like, yes, I shot her. In this monotone, and again, there's just every single point on this list of this storyline just gets me more and more upset. Because Coop talks to Amina in this monotone voice and is just like, yes, I shot your mother. Like, doesn't even try to say, oh, but your mom was sort of like, I know this is hard to hear, but your mom was doing bad things. I shot her in self-defense. None of that comes out of her mouth. Like, if you're going to go over Preach's head, number one, why didn't she talk to Preach in the first place before doing all of that? But if you're going to go over Preach's head to tell his daughter something that is a lie anyway, how are you just going to say point blank, oh yeah, I shot your mom? And then what upset me is that Coop was shocked when she walked away. Like, she was really like, oh, she didn't stand here and hear me out. Like, you did not say, like, I did it in self-defense. You were literally like, yeah, I shot her.
like wasn't you just telling,
why?
Preach and Patience that if Preach told her that he shot her mom, she'd look at him differently, So like how was you shot?
Right.
Like, how could you be shot?
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, it's like, at least if you're going to go with the official lie, which, whatever, like, makes sense. It builds up your credibility for the police or whatever, because you still got to worry about that, because we ain't heard if the investigation is over. So you're telling this little girl this lie, but you're not even saying why. And that's what I had a problem with. The fact that she was just like, yes, I shot her, with no explanation as to why that occurred. And I understand like you're ruining the image of the mom, but Coop, you're ruining the image of yourself.
Yeah.
Like I don't. It's just, and not only the image of herself, but she didn't even think about the blowback that like, oh, and my dad lied to me because he said that Coop wasn't involved. Like Coop just did not think this through. And she thinks that she has this under control, and I'm not understanding why that's her thought process with this. I obviously, audience, as you can tell, I'm really upset.
Yeah. That the storyline cringe. I don't know if like what my thoughts on it right now is, because like I'm still processing it and everything that went on in it. But I will say that Coop didn't follow her own advice.
Facts.
She wanted to do her own thing, and
Going rogue.
it's like yeah, she going rogue. So it's going like I guess like I say it's gonna come back to haunt her, and I guess I'll get more into that when we do the predictions and stuff like that.
Right. Right. So on to the more this was like the relative calm in an episode where a lot was going on, and I guess it's because new storylines weren't necessarily introduced. It didn't feel like a lot to me, but just having us talk through it, a lot actually did happen. And Layla and Olivia are considering their futures. We'll touch on Layla first, in that she is getting ready for graduation. She's a valedictorian. She is preparing her speech. And her dad, even though he said that he was okay with her taking a gap year, like her dad sets up this meeting with, I think, the music department's director at Coastal California, which was, it was interesting that they tried to connect her to Coastal California. I just thought that was funny. Because that's obviously where JJ, it looks like JJ and Asher are going to go. He sets up this meeting for her. She's freaking out about it. She tells Olivia and Simone about it, and they're just like, ooh, that is interesting. Has the meeting, sort of comes from the meeting, is a little bit shaken from that meeting with the director, because he, outlines all of these classes about music theory that she just doesn't have that grounding in. And so she's in the studio and she's sort of thinking about that, like thinking about that meeting and thinking about how much she doesn't know. Clay comes to her real quick and is just like, oh, you're so great. Like, oh, you're doing it. Like, da 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 da. Let me set up this meeting for you. And so we get JoJo on the show. Ooh! My queen, I stand JoJo, but her character's name is Sabine. She's, this mega artist who's been in the business since she was 10. So Layla meets with her. Sabine is like, I want to work with you. And basically gives her this little pep talk about, like, dealing with people who think that they know more than you, but they actually don't. And like, standing in your womanhood and just knowing that you have like worth and value, and that you bring good things to the table. I'm wondering how they will use JoJo's character going forward, and how it's going to be a little bit more relaxed. So anyway, gives her that pep talk, and then Layla gets the idea for her valedictorian speech that ends up being like, you can chart your own path. So that was that storyline. What did you think about it?
Um, I thought it was interesting because I find Layla to be very smart, and like I think I had said something about maybe Layla going to college at one point in
Right.
time, and you know I was like, yes, maybe we are going to get Layla going to college, but I don't think she actually going to college anymore. But I think in order for like uh her to progress, she got to keep doing what she's doing, and furthering her her producing and songwriting and all that other career. And maybe she might do a song or something on there. I don't know. But I would say like for her to like, I think she was like just like worried about uh her her knowledge in the music, from the meeting she had with the guy, um, that her dad set up, and it was just like, will I think they were just trying to play it to like, will it hinder her, or like make her, want to actually go to college, or will it make her grow stronger? Because Layla do know a lot,
Right.
and I think in order to improve on what she's already doing, she just got to keep doing what she's doing,
Right.
and because that's the best way to get better in the field of work you're doing, is to keep working on it daily and keep trying to improve. Like Clay was telling her, like you like one of the hottest producers out, and everybody wants to work with you, so like screw with screw what the guy said to you, um it doesn't matter, because you still, at the end of the day, you still you still one of the best in the industry right now.
Right. Right. Well, and that, like, it was really interesting, that whole conversation, because she grew up around this, and her dad is the producer in the music business, and so
Hmm.
she does
Right.
know a lot, and so it was really interesting to see her sort of apprehensive about her own ability, apprehensive about her own knowledge, and really, like, in a more vulnerable state. Like, even with Clay, it was so interesting how it was played, like how Greta played that, because I was just like, she could have, it could have been taken as, this meeting really frustrated me and he doesn't know what he's talking about. And still, like, riffing off of that, like, still being like, oh, but, like, is he right? But it was like, oh no, he's right. Like, it felt like she thought he was right. So that was interesting, and yeah, we'll talk about it in the predictions, but they can do some things with that for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
the other one of my best girls, it's for Twitter. The other one of my best girls, who was struggling to figure out her post graduation plans. Olivia, my absolute best girl. Let me say that right now. You already know, Jason.
Yeah, I do.
And so Olivia was trying to figure out what she was going to do for college. And she had all of these amazing offers: Georgetown, NYU, obviously GAU, or, the Golden Arches, as I call them. Um, so she was really trying to figure out where she was gonna go to school, and she was talking to, back in that same scene with Layla and Simone, talking about, like, oh, I don't want to be one of those girls that follows my boyfriend, and they were like, okay.
That was so funny. I was laughing.
So yeah, Olivia was saying that she didn't want to be thirsty, and Simone and Layla were just like, okay, okay, sure. um, I too was just like, okay, okay, because everybody was just like, you finna pick GAU, which she ultimately did. But it's so funny, because at the end, and I am jumping around a little bit, but at the end she was like, telling Spencer that she chose GAU and that she didn't do it for him. But Homegirl got into Georgetown and NYU. Like, those are not tiny schools. Those are like really great top universities in the nation.
Right.
And so the fact that it's like GAU, and we haven't even established, like, we know they have a good football program, but we haven't even established their, like, academic level. I'm sure they have a great program, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they're gonna make it one of the top universities or whatever. But still, like, Georgetown and NYU, like, I don't know, they should have chosen something like UCLA or so. I don't know, like, I don't, just some other college that wasn't as famous as those other colleges, because it.
I,
You're clearly choosing GAU to be with Spencer.
yeah, yeah. I think they messed up on the other colleges, because like they are further away, and like like everybody knows like you gonna want to go. You probably gonna want to go to school with Spencer. So like it's just like what's the point? We all know once you said GAU, it's like yeah, you going there. Other schools didn't
Right,
stand a
right,
chance.
right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if they had said UCLA or something like that, it's yeah, it was just funny. Um, but a part of the reason why she came to the conclusion of GAU is because she talked to Simone's aunt Amara, who is, we know from the Homecoming pilot, and now the first episode has premiered, is a journalist professor. And so she has a lot of information on other journalism programs. And so she uh, basically has this meeting with Liv that Simone set up. And she was just like, it looks like you have options paralysis. And Liv didn't know what that meant, but she was just like using these big words. And just like, basically saying word salad that journalism isn't journalism anymore, and it's all about sort of what's hot and what's dropping right now, and how social media is used to drop the news, and that editors want you to change your opinion, and just like all of this stuff about how journalism isn't real journalism anymore, which is true. But it's really interesting because she said, you know she was like real sort of like real journalists do all of this work just so some toddler with a social media account can tweet it out. And again, the essence of her argument was true, but I don't know if the writers intended it to be this way. But the second time I was rewatching this, I was like, this is like low-key shade, and I don't think it was intended to be, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying by the writers, but this was low-key shade to Olivia having having a podcast,
Uh-huh.
right? Dropping the footage. I'm like, Amara's literally low-key coming for what Olivia has done that at first that even got her interested in journalism. So it was, and I don't know if that was like actually the intention. It was like really unclear if that was the intention, was to come after Olivia, but it was just really weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know what she was trying to say, but it just came out, it just came out odd. And then she, comes back to Olivia to say that she was testing her to see if she really wanted to pursue like real journalism and be a journalist with integrity. And the other thing is, like, I'm okay, that's all well and good, but like, why was she testing Olivia in the first place? I'm really confused.
I guess she wanted to figure out if she'd be a good journalist or not. And she's looking.
But why would she need to figure that out? She's not going to Brinkston. Like, I understand in a sense where this is coming from.
Mhm.
Like, we all family. Like, you're connected to Simone and
Yeah.
and like all of this, but Amara does not know Olivia like that to be testing her and being like, oh, I was just trying to see if you're really cut out. I just didn't. I just didn't get it. I didn't. And the thing is, it's like, I got it, but I didn't get the purpose of why she was trying to test her, because it's, you know, she can do whatever she wants,
Right.
right? Like, even if she was in it to like drop be that person that drops tweets or whatever. Okay, so she's that person that drops tweets or whatever. Like, that has nothing to do with you. I just did it. It was just really funny to me that she was trying to test her.
Yeah, I think the whole storyline was interesting because, like I said, like everybody knew where she was going. So like
Right.
you really didn't like need no storyline for it, but I guess like because they wanted like to pretend like they that Olivia didn't know what she wanted, where she wanted to go, or what was going to be best for her. That they had this idea for her, like that like I don't know where I want to go. Or they didn't want to make her seem like she was just following Spencer. That's what it was. I think, and
Right.
so like like once like when she's like when her Layla and Simone was together, and like at the when the whole thing started, and she was like, I don't want to be thirsty, but at the same time to that she was like, well, Spencer might not be going, to college. He might get expelled, so I won't get my
Yeah,
chance to be
right.
thirsty. Like, I'm like, what?
Hold up. Hold up, because you're making me think of something else that I don't even have down. But you pointing that out is so facts, so 1,000, because after Spencer was like officially graduated is when she made the decision to go to GAU. So Olivia is my sister, but like just be honest and say you go for Spencer. Like, I don't understand. And that's what I mean. Like, if the writers had the execution of this um of this storyline, and maybe this is like the way that they wanted it to be. Like, they wanted it to be clear that she is trying to follow Spencer, but or not follow him,
Right.
right, but like still trying to do what she wants to do and still be close to
Yeah.
Spencer. I just feel like there was another way that they could have went about it. Like, they could have had her have a real conversation with Amara, like where Amara is just like, well, like GAU has a like strong social justice bit.
Yeah.
Like, they literally could have said that, or something that actually is grounding for why she chose GAU. But this weird, like, I'm trying to test you to see if you're a real journalist. Like, I don't I don't think it landed like quite as it should have, because if their intention was to make the audience think that Olivia did not do this like for Spencer, or like having Spencer be a big reason why she did this, then I think that they did not execute that. They did not achieve that goal.
Yep. Yeah. So it's like I said, it's just like the whole storyline was just trying to like, I get they wanted the audience to feel like she wasn't going for Spencer, but they also wanted the audience to know that like she's going for Spencer.
She was going for
Yeah,
Spencer.
so like it's just like
Exactly.
what's the point? What's the point of all this? Like, I could see if they was like trying to like low key like see if she like try to put interest in her going to like Brinkston or something like that. Then yeah, but
Right.
they wasn't trying to do that. So like at the end of the day, I don't think it was a point for her to meet with Simone, aunt, because she not going to Brinkston. I mean, I understand that her aunt run a program, journalism
Right.
program at Brinkston, but still.
And that's the thing, like, even if they had shown, like, I think in the Homecoming pilot, they said, oh, we're seeing if Liv wants to apply here
Yeah.
or something. Like, Liv was the person before Simone, like, that might have been interested in applying to Brinkston. So even if she had applied to Brinkston, and like even if she had applied to Brinkston and was like waiting to give them their decision, and then was meeting with Amara to say like, okay, like, then that storyline of like Amara testing her would have made sense, like would have made more sense, if she was interested in attending Brinkston. But because she was interested in these schools that were so far away, and again, like, not even, and I think in Homecoming, and I might be misremembering this, but I think in Homecoming or right after, like, Liv was just like, yeah, I want to sort of stay close to home. So why would they not have her just consider other options in California? Like, I'm so confused. Like, the whole storyline would have landed a little bit more better. It would have been a little bit more clear if they had literally just substituted Georgetown and NYU, like chose one of those schools, and then be like, she also applied to UCLA, she also applied to Stanford, like, even Stanford.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, so that's my last bit of rant on that. But it was nice to see. What I am happy about is that we finally got a sense of like what she is doing for her future. So she's going to GAU. She's applying to or she got accepted, and she's going to be in the journalism
Right.
school, which is exciting. And so talking about that boyfriend of hers. um, yeah, yeah. I the awkward pauses. Um, as we know, Spencer at the end of the last episode, right, said that he stole the trophy and he was returning it and XYZ.
Right.
Principal London has now requested a meeting with Carter uh, to talk about basically Spencer being put on disciplinary review. Jabari is trying to talk him out of it. The gang, the friends, are trying to figure out a way to not have Spencer be expelled, and have Spencer be able to graduate. And Grace is like, you're like losing her mind over the fact that Spencer is doing this, right? And Spencer, I almost want to say I don't even think Spencer knows why he's doing it, but he did. We did get a clear explanation of why Spencer was doing it,
Yeah.
and so that is like a grand summary of what this plot line was. And on the let's start with like why Spencer was doing it. Spencer was doing it for Jabari, as he said, right? He was doing it for Jabari because he thought, and right, not just for the Jabari, for the whole entire system.
Right.
Spencer, what is it? Spencer Luther King. You were doing it for the whole entire system, to challenge the system, because people were not valuing the lives of all Crenshaw students, right? They divided them into the good and the bad, and London just wanted somebody to be expelled.
Right. Like, I think that's why.
Go
I
ahead.
would say that's why I didn't really like. I liked it, but I didn't like it at the same time because like at one side, he's saying he's doing it for for the system, to try to change the system and trying to get the outlook on the people who don't got a good stability in their family or aren't like good athletes and um that just do something to get in trouble like like once and then they got a bad review on them, I would say, and then uh like when he was talking to his mama Grace, and she was like, I thought Dr. Spears got you from being from playing the hero, but at like towards like the end,
Right.
I'm jumping around a little bit, you know it was like that's what they were trying to say, is like he was doing it to be the hero rather than doing it, to try to change the system, and that's what I didn't like.
Well, and I'm gonna I want to say what I didn't like. I think it wasn't clear, like the purpose, and this is going back to why I said I don't even think that he knows why he
Right.
does it, because to your point, we got so many different explanations, and for me, I don't think that we had the grounding um as an audience up until, like, to get a clear reason why Spencer was doing it, up until Jabari said, like, my life isn't like worth
Right.
it, like
Hmm.
XYZ. But up until that point, I don't think that we got the sense that Jabari felt
Yeah.
that way. And I don't know if it's like other dialogue got cut or like whatever it was, but it was just like, Spencer, you're just doing this to do it. Like, I don't, like, of course people are going to be held accountable. And not even, and I think, like, obviously London was just like, we just want one name and like blah blah blah, be expelled. But even London at some point admitted, like, okay, whoever actually is the one that did it has to just say the purpose, like defend their point, right? Defend their cause, defend why they shouldn't be expelled, just like Spencer was going to do. So it wasn't. It felt a bit uneven to me. Because again, it like there's a point to be made about not valuing people who come from certain parts of town, like people who we see as gang members,
Hmm.
like the school to prison pipeline, that whole
Right.
like that whole system, right? That is an actual system of
Yeah.
injustice. This this loose tie to stealing the championship trophy and um, the sprinkler system destroying the gym,
Hmm.
like that's an actually big problem. It's not like people, getting called out in class, like doing, not being held account for being held accountable for things that aren't a big deal. Like this was actually a big
Yeah.
deal. And to make the point that yes, people make mistakes, but Spencer was acting like it wasn't a big deal. Like, oh, it was a prank. Yes, it's a prank, but like there was like what, $500,000 in damages or whatever. It didn't seem like Spencer was taking this seriously, which was weird because the whole point of him returning the trophy was because he took it
Yeah.
seriously. And like it's just like you can't tell your team like how dare you do this and answer me, like literally say this an episode ago, like all of that stuff, then change to, oh, I'm doing it to fight the system, oh, y'all are all worth it, you hear me? Like what are you talking about, Spencer? What is going on? And that's why I say I don't even think that he knows why he did it. Like he has this idea that it was to fight the system. But I will tell you what I loved that the writers did, and again, this was intentional,
Hmm.
right? Is that Spencer eventually said to Grace the second time they talked, he eventually said, I don't know why I'm like this.
Right.
And it's like, finally, finally, we get the sense that it's literally, he was just like, I don't know how else to be.
Right.
And that's when they can actually do some groundwork into actually starting to examine why he has this complex, right? And then Grace came back with like, it's just, it's who God wants you to be, and it's, this and that. And as they continue to evolve his savior storyline, his savior complex, the Superman thing, I just I want to see a little bit more of a clearer idea of if the adults actually think this is a problem, right?
Okay.
Like we had Billy last season being like, "Of course, be the hero." He told that to Spencer, and then a couple of episodes later, he was just like, "You always have to be the hero, right?" Grace in the same episode. In the same episode, Grace is saying like, "Well, I just don't understand why you are this way, and maybe someday, by and by, I'll understand it better by and by." Like she's saying this stuff. And then she's just like, "Oh, I understand the call that God has placed on your life." Like, which is it? Which is it? Because I truly think that at this point, Spencer doesn't understand why he is that way. And this is a good segue to examining that now. But if people are going to be so flippy floppy on whether this is an issue and whether it's not an issue, or like how to balance this, or if he needs to balance it at all, that's when it's just like this storyline becomes a little bit more unclear, because it's just like, is this something that he's gonna work on, or is it something that he's going, and I think that he should work on
Right.
it, right?
Right.
Like I said, I loved the fact that he said, I don't know how else to be, because I felt like that was such an honest and vulnerable moment from him, because we usually see him in just like, oh, like it's my job and like stuff like this, and him being like, I like this is almost compulsory for me, like I can't stop it. And I think that was the most honest thing that he said. But like for people to help him, like, like Carter did, and he was just like, oh, I wasn't gonna say, don't quit your job, I'm gonna take it. Or like the gang did when they said, I broke into Beverly too, which I called. I called that happening. And I called the little private graduation ceremony. But yeah, so for people to be able to help him, it sort of, they have to acknowledge that it's a problem. So I just think it's going to be interesting to see how they have the people in his life acknowledge this issue, but I don't think that they can be as flippy floppy as they have been.
Yeah.
Let me shut up for a second. What did you think about
Oh
this?
nah. I think like I think when his gang, his crew, was just sitting in what's the cafe called? I forgot. The Crenshaw Cafe, something like that. With
Slawson's.
Slauson, and they was
Slawson's.
trying to figure out how to help him and stuff like that. And JJ was the funniest. JJ
Yeah,
had me.
the
Yeah,
first time out of three that he was just like, "What's going on?" He said that so many times in this episode. What's this? But sorry, go ahead.
and JJ was just like, uh, what did JJ say? JJ was like, we can. I guess he like implied that they can fight Principal Carter. I mean, not Principal Carter, Principal London, and I thought that was so funny. And they like, no, we can't do that. So and
Right,
yeah,
right.
so like I just thought that moment was funny with JJ. But like I think like to Spencer's point, I think he knew that they was going to see, like if Jabari came forward, they was going to see him as a criminal as opposed to, like just a kid who made a a, a bad decision. He made a bad decision. But it wasn't
Absolutely,
just him, it was
absolutely.
other people with him, but for some reason J- uh Jabari is the fall guy, and because
Right,
he did have that that robbery landscape of it all on like on the back burner. So like they use I feel like the writers used that to like try to make uh Jabari the fall guy in that situation, but and and I think that's what Spencer was trying to fight, but he didn't want everybody to like he wanted everybody to see him as like he said, he thought they was all worthy, and
right,
and
right,
and like just because they see Spencer as like so they see Spencer as like the one that saved their school, I guess, as like one of as like the resource, as he said, a couple seasons ago. But so like I don't think they would have been hard on Spencer had it been Spencer, but because they knew it wasn't Spencer, they were just trying to use the expulsion against them to try to get them to tell it. And Spencer ain't no snitch. If he think it's like a bad thing that you're doing. I mean, given Olivia's situation when he told her parents, but like he wanted Jabari to have the same opportunity that he does because he saw his life being worthy. Him being able to play football and maybe one day going to college and one day playing the NFL. That's what he wanted for him, and he didn't want him to get expelled because he knew they would expel him and they would have locked him up. And at
right,
at the end of the day, I think that's what he was originally fighting for, but it just got lost in everything that was going on, and them trying to decide whether Spencer played a superhero
right.
or or what he was really doing it for.
Right, right. And again, I'm agreeing with your points. I think it was very clearly that Jabari had had a previous record. I just wish a little bit more time had been focused on that
Hmm.
rather than like uh rather than focusing it entirely on like the reasoning for why Spencer has done this, right? Like we got so many conversations, we got the gang all preparing to see like how we gonna do this, how we gonna attack, like everybody quiet down, quiet, we gotta speak one at a time. Like if we spent more time with Jabari being like, I can't go to jail, I just things like that would have made it hit that much
Right.
harder. Um, because like let's be honest, um, you know that we found out that Jabari was in trouble a while ago.
Yeah.
It's like a season ago at
Yeah.
this point. So like we as the audience like need reminders about how serious the situation is because Spencer wasn't really giving that to the audience. He was just like, I'm fighting a system. Like, okay, a system for what? Like, just give us a little bit more information. But it obviously ended up working out. Carter sacrificed his job for him. It only took three what is thises, and the final what is this was his private graduation ceremony again, which I also called. So he and Coop got to graduate together. Here's what I was just like, I guess Carter was like technically resigned as the principal, but I was like, why is Billy giving him his diploma? That was just like a small thing where I was just like, Carter is the whole entire principal, or used to be, and we got Billy over here in graduation garb. A side note, right. A side note about that, Coop coming through with a cap and gown. Why was Coop being like, I stole the trophy? Like, you don't even go to either of these schools. Always just want to be a part of something, Coop. I'm kidding. I'm like, Coop, like, you already in enough legal and police trouble as it is. You really want to take the fall for $500,000 in damages?
Right. No, but something else I just thought about is, Spencer kind of got Jabari back on the right road, and he didn't want to. I think he didn't want to see that messed up either, because he saw Jabari doing all this good, help tutoring. Like, we don't see it anymore, like, on screen, but they started a tutoring, program for like the athletes, so that way they can play, and so Spencer was like one of the main people who helped Jabari get to where he was, and I don't think he wanted to see that go down the drain just because of a prank,
Right. No, absolutely right. And so he got to walk in his dad's graduation garb on the beach, and we basically ended the episode with the gang, JJ, Spencer, Olivia, Layla, Asher, Patience, Coop, and
Simone.
And Chris, all. Oh, right, and Simone. There were so many people. I'm like, I was literally about to be like, I'm not gonna name them because I'm gonna forget people, and then I named them anyway. But yeah, all of them at the beach, just chilling by the bonfire, and apparently JJ was playing guitar, but they were chilling, and it was basically ended up on the note of like what we talked about at the beginning, which is, how are we going to stay connected? How are we going to stay together, close, all of that stuff. And them just thinking about that, them linking arms. and then Spencer like doing some like soliloquy, like, here's to new beginnings, and looking into the camera, like almost breaking the fourth wall. Just like, I'm excited for the college episodes. It was just so, I mentioned in the predictions, I was just like, what if they do some Disney Nickelodeon type stuff? And they did! They did do the Disney, but I loved it. I'll tell you what I loved too is like the small smile that like Daniel slowly did, how he played that, like the small smile that went on Spencer's face after he said new beginnings. I really like that, and I am excited to see like they're about to be grown now. Like, we're past this high school point. So let's see what they are in summer. Let's see what they are when they start a new school. So that was where the episode ended. Again, it was a lot. I don't even know how long this is gonna be. It's gonna be at least 50 minutes, I know that. But let's get into the predictions. Thanks for listening to the Film Study and All-American podcast. Stay tuned for Jason and Maya's predictions.